Welcome everyone to a casted game of Age of Empires 4, and today spawning in the southwest corner of the map, playing in blue, we've got Sort of playing as the Japanese, and his opponent in the northeast playing in red, representing 3D clan, we've got Garnath playing as the Byzantines. Welcome everyone to Prairie. That is your map for today, and I'm pretty excited about this matchup. We've seen a lot of Byzantines and Japanese, but we haven't seen them on Prairie, a map that gets a lot of sheep, and the reason why that's important is because things are a bit different about the civilizations, right? So the Byzantines, they can often prioritize berries for olive oil. The Japanese can often prioritize berries just because they can get berries really fast, especially if they get the eco upgrades from the farmhouse. Not only that though, the Byzantines, or I should say the Japanese rather, they do have the option to get the Cura storehouse, getting free farms. And so that delays even how much more they need to take out the sheep. So it does feel like the food income for the Japanese is going to be absolutely off the charts. And the reason why I think that's really important, in particular this matchup, I feel like there's a really strong timing push here for the Japanese. They can really zerg out units, really produce units really quickly, especially with the training times. You know, Yumi Ashigaru, 13 seconds on those guys to come out. And the fact that they can pump in their wood all into production buildings is absolutely fantastic. Obviously, they don't need any farms. They don't need any hard transitions for a long time because they get free farms from the Cura storehouse and they've got plenty of sheep coming in, especially obviously on a map like Prairie. Speaking of which, sometimes two players do go for second scouts. It doesn't seem like that's the way there for Sort of. Just relying on the one scout for now, and same for 3D Garnath, but there we go. Sorry for the switch of colours there. When we do have an option here on Capture Age to make sure the players are playing on red and blue, it's a bit buggy at times, but it definitely beats the pink and the purple colours that you can get. It's very difficult to see the difference between the two colours sometimes, and I did actually get a comment on YouTube at once. Someone mentioning about color blindness and how that can affect people's viewership. So I'm definitely paying more attention to that because obviously you don't really want to see purple and pink together. Very difficult to tell the units apart. So hopefully I'll continue to remember doing that. So thank you for the guy who reminded me of that, because obviously I don't have color blindness myself, right? So it wouldn't necessarily be the first thing I think of. In any case, the Japanese going up with the Cocker Township, and it's going to be getting a couple of those shinobi. I love to see it actually, because the Cocker Township is a landmark that does make the shinobi unit, and it's the only landmark that can do that. Without this landmark, you don't get the shinobi. So we talked a lot about the Cura storehouse, and I actually really like this approach, right? Because it makes sense in a way, because the shinobi offer now the Japanese something they wouldn't have with the Cura storehouse. More importantly, the Japanese aren't particularly reliant on the Cura storehouse anymore. Not with this number of sheep. So I'm pretty excited to see how he does with the shinobi, especially because it's a very open map. It means that shinobi do have a lot of angles to attack from. Now, speaking of angles, the Byzantines do often have two particular angles you can take, obviously with landmarks, and he's got the options for the Grand Winery and the Imperial Hippodrome. Has actually gone for the Grand Winery, so we might be expecting a bit more of a late game play. And I think the Grand Winery is a strong unit, strong landmark rather for that. Going to be boosting up the olive oil gathering by 60% from the berries and also olive groves. Going to be accessing mercenary units, no doubt, because of that. Does have an archery range built. That's a lot of idle time in these villages. 5 of them. Holy moly. Garnath. Wakey wakey. Byzantine villagers. Get back to work. Hello? Okay, eventually they will go back to work, I'm sure of that. That's a lot of wasted time, guys. Wait, what's going on? Does he have massive lag or something? Yeesh. Okay, well, we'll come back to that, because we've got Shinobis crossing the map, and these guys are absolutely beautiful units. Probably one of my favorite units in Age of Empires 4 right now. With 3 abilities, has a spy ability. You could actually see them actually kind of disguise themselves as red villagers. We'll have to see. With the spy ability, it does also have sabotage. I really like this. It actually dishes out 200 damage, but also disables the production of a building. So it really does a double whammy kind of damage. Also sets the building on fire for 30 seconds to dish out a bit more of a lasting damage. Now, the last ability they get is Shun Shin, able to drop a smoke bomb and reappear. Basically like a teleportation thing. It's actually kind of cool to see. Hopefully we'll see it today. Alright, it's going to be looking to maybe cause some damage here. There's the Q ability as well for the border settlements. Not ability, but rather the upgrade for the Byzantines. Does allow the houses to have extra line of vision. And also build 500% faster. Pretty much instant building at that point. Oh, we can see there the spy ability. 3 shinobi turning red. Disguising themselves as the Byzantines villagers. And they're very similar to each other. Holy moly. Twins. Or triplets, I should say. Or, wait, what? What's the... yeah, triplets. Twins. Yeah, I guess that makes sense. Can you get identical triplets? Is that a thing? You probably could, couldn't you? Not that I've seen it. You always... That's really weird, actually. Has anyone ever seen identical triplets? Like, you see identical twins. Anyway. That's actually... Okay, we're gonna focus on Age of Empires, okay? And now that we've kind of got over the early game, just a nice thought for you guys in the comment section. Just let me know. Have you ever seen identical triplets? I never have. But, I mean, I guess it's possible, theoretically. Who knows? In any case, we've got scouts versus scouts, and Shinobi is going to ride away for now. They haven't actually been able to do too much damage, I've got to say. Bit disappointing there. Oh, you just see the Shunshin ability, the smoke bomb, teleportation, getting away from the scout and keeping themselves alive. Has actually committed to 5 Shinobi. We don't often see this many. I do love this playstyle from sort of. I'm a big fan. Now, the good thing about the Shinobi is that it's kept the Byzantines at home, right? And it looks like now sort of is going to be opting for a second town centre to scale that economy. Now, what this kind of translates to as the game wears on, for the Byzantines at least, is that the Byzantines are now going to be faced up against the 2 town centre Japanese. And the thing about the situation is the Japanese can actually really scale their economy incredibly nicely, especially when they condense like this. It's going to protect the gold vein, but more importantly, in the late game, he's going to have a really nice farming transition, which is also going to be boosted up by the Daimyo Manor. Now, this particular town centre improvement is going to be increasing the arrow slit emplacement in the town centre, but also give a free villager, and also increase the HP of the town centre by a good 1000 HP. But more importantly, for each level, you're going to be increasing the farming harvest rate. So at the moment, it has been boosted by 25%. The next stage is going to be boosted by 50%. And the third and final stage is going to be boosting by 75%. If we do get there, the late game for the Japanese is incredibly strong with food count. Now, I think there's an emerging trend for the Japanese. And just hear me out, okay? I know we're obviously doing a lot of theory crafting these days, with the civilizations being so new, but I feel like the Japanese, they have this ability in the late game to absolutely zerg away their opponent. The reason why I say that is because when you've got such a food income, you can throw away units. And they've got units that are pretty much designed to do that. The Yumi Ashigaru, the Honor Bugeisha, they're incredibly fast on their feet. They're kind of low-cost units, but, you know, moderate damage units. And so that is kind of the definition of a throwaway unit in mass numbers. And as long as you can replace them, it can cause big damage for your opponent. If your opponent doesn't have the resources to be able to replace their army and they're losing them, even against like bad trades for the Japanese, overall as a push, it can really maintain and gain momentum. It's kind of like if you've played StarCraft 2, it's kind of the Zerg kind of pushes that you can get with all-ins. It can be kind of crazy. The crazy situation is that this all-in is not in the feud age. It's not sort of early on, but you do need that established economy to be able to achieve something like that. So we'll have to see. Now, sort of is having to head back with the Shinobi, keeping them alive for now. Quite a few archers coming out for the Byzantines. Peanuts or Dollars in the chat does ask the question of whether they get mounted archers, and they get mounted crossbowmen. So they've got this unit called the Onimusha, the Japanese. Well, let's take a look at this fight though. Well, the archer's going to focus on the Shinobi. They're going to have to back away. He needs to use the Shunshin ability to get out of there. He is being pushed back quite a bit. We do see an Umma Bannerman that's going to be boosting up the attack damage of the horseman by quite a significant amount, by the way. It is giving an extra 15% damage. But back on that thought, the Onimusha, a very unique unit for the Japanese. They do actually basically get mounted crossbowmen. I think it's a really nice unit, actually. I'm taking a look at the wrong civilization there, but it's a really nice unit for the Japanese because of the fact that we don't have any other units in the game that are mounted crossbowmen. We have horse archers, which are, you know, mounted archers, of course. But obviously the Onimusha have a bit of bonus damage against heavily armoured units, whether it be man-at-arms, knights, you name it, and they've got the movement speed, which is really, really nice. I think there's many reasons why the Japanese and Byzantines are very much fan favourites. I gotta say, I'm personally leaning towards the Japanese as my favourite civilization, mainly because of the free farms and very unique units. A couple of villages here being picked off by Garnath. Might get one more. It does get one more. And 2 villagers down here, sort of. Although, having said that, it's got a second town centre, right? So Garneth is actually going to need to do a bit more damage than this. Now, all of a sudden, I like this playstyle. I feel Japanese are really strong, actually, because they've got a really strong one town centre play if they upgrade their town centre with the Daimyo Manor and have a really strong kind of late feudal age, early castle age push with massive units. But also a second town centre play can be very hard to punish because they can play a very condensed economy, right, with the farm and gather rate increased by the Daimyo Manor. But not only that, against some civilizations like the Byzantines, which I think often are pretty slow to get going with the Grand Winery, it makes it difficult for the Byzantines to really pump out units, right? Okay, sure, he's got 30 units on the field, right? But that's not going to be such a huge advantage that he dishes out all sorts of damage. And if anything, the Byzantines are usually more equipped at defending, especially with the Akratoi kind of boats they get from the cistern, equipping their villagers with weapons. I feel like the Byzantines, when they choose the Grand Winery, they're a lot more defensive in nature. The Imperial Hippodrome, though, on the other hand, is a totally different beast, of course. That's not something we'll see today. Garneth just pushing the military away for sort of, but this is a really awkward play here, I'd say, because Garneth he's kind of pushing away repelling attacks, almost as if he's on 2 town centers. The problem for Garneth is he's actually on 1 town center, and it's actually Japanese that are on 2. So I think sort of will be quite happy about the situation, the fact that Garneth is, you know, playing pretty defensive. Having said that, Garneth is now getting a 2nd town center, but obviously it's later than Sortov's, and so the Byzantines are playing catch up a little bit. And it's always a bit tricky, the situation for the Byzantines, because they need to do something with their military, right? But they're kind of struggling on that front. Now, the Bannermen are going to be boosting up the horsemen with the extra 15% attack damage. And so I think Sortov will be very happy taking that engagement as long as the spearmen don't get involved. And they're not getting involved because the Byzantines, they're going home. Couple of Shinobi camping out on the east side of the map, sort of just making sure the Byzantines don't escalate their economy elsewhere. Garneth always try to keep an eye on these horsemen. I gotta say, I do love the horseman movement here for sort of. You definitely need movement on a map like Prairie, and getting the Bannerman, it really helps. It's actually a really strong unit in and of itself, by the way. I was going to get take engagement there against the Limitani, I should say. I always get that mixed up, but I believe it is Limitani. Sort of just needs to back away now, buy some time, getting arrow slits on an outpost somewhere. We'll have a look at that. Probably on some sort of gold vein out on the outskirts, or essentially on the berries and the food, the food and the wood rather. Giving a horseman here on the west side, just making sure there's no expansion in the. I love this play by sort of, right? He's always keeping an eye on the map, seeing where the free resources are, using that mobility that he has, and he's going to go up to the castle age with the floating gate landmark, and just feels like sort of is in one step ahead. He's going to be able to access the Yorishiro, which will boost up either the economy or production buildings, depends what sort of wants to achieve. And also, not only that, he'll have access to a Shinto priest to pick up those relics. Garneth is going to have to do something about that. He's extending his aqueduct system. He's at level 3 at the moment with the system. That's going to be boosting up the villagers for sure. Should be at a good sort of 15% now. There we are. 15% increased gather speed. The Japanese are going to push this away. Sort of has to retreat now. I think sort of doesn't need to take any unnecessary fights. But he does take an engagement here against the horsemen. That's a good pick off there. The archers might start to turn around and fight there for the Byzantines. Oh, this could be a great fight for here for sort of grouping up his army with the Bannerman. That's going to be increasing the damage output of the horsemen. The horsemen are going to get a wrap around, and if they get a wrap around the archers, the Byzantines are going to struggle. The Shinobi are going down. Does need to get the Shinobi out of there. Does have a couple of these Keshiks though, Garneth, to defend with, and the Keshiks are going to come and clutch. The spearmen heading in the fight as well. All of a sudden though, sort of needs to back away. Oh, he's taking the fight. I'm not so sure why. Has he looked away? I think he looked away for a second there. Didn't expect to see the spearmen and the Keshiks, but they were there. The Shinobi need to bounce away too. And all of a sudden, something that looked pretty bad there for Garneth actually worked out in his favour. Sort of having to back away home. Does now get to that castle age, so I should be expecting some castle age upgrades. Veteran horsemen, at the very least. The trouble for Garneth is that he's taken to that second town centre a little bit late. Does have the olive grove transition, which is going to be quite nice for the olive oil. So he should be able to pump out some good mercenary units. And speaking of which, actually, let's just check what mercenary contract he went up with. That doesn't actually say that, but it must have been the Eastern contract because he obviously has some Keshiks on the field. So we have access to the Keshiks, the Gulam, and the Tower Elephant if the games head that way. Gotta back away though, sort of, taking some damage from the arrows. Ooh, look at that farming transition there for sort of. Looking beautiful. 42 villagers on farms. That food economy must be amazing there. It's only actually 1,000 odd, but I mean, that will increase over time for sure. I think it's probably only just transitioned. Give it some time, that resource counter will start to climb. Ooh, Walala going off just to push away the units more than anything. It does push it away successfully. Garnath feels like he needs to do damage, and he's not wrong. But behind this, we're going to see the upgraded samurai, hardened samurai going to be coming on the field, and Adachi as well. We're going to see a bit of a tech switch. Does only have the daimyo mana and just a regular TC for now. Would expect to see this being upgraded. We shall see. Taking the engagement on the berries. Oh, this is bad here for sort of. Might lose quite a few villagers there. There are Keshiks. There is a Shinto priest healing up. I mean, he can't really fight this. He needs to get some army here quickly. He's going to lose a lot of villagers here. This is a good pick off here by Garnath, but on the front lines, a couple of units heading away. On Namusha. Not on Namusha, rather. On Bageisha, rather. A fast-moving infantry unit. Are starting to pop out a little bit. Does take care of it in the end with the hardened samurai. Now, on Bageisha, this is such an interesting unit. I love to see it because they are really fast at attacking. Look how fast their animations are. It's actually 0.9 attack speed, which is incredibly fast considering the unit type. Not only that, actually also has a 1-tile range, which really kind of messes with your head because there's no other unit in the civilizations that we have in Age of Empires 4 that do that. And you might be wondering, well, what does that mean? Well, ranged units you can often see when they're firing and how much kind of damage they're doing, but with melee attack and melee units when they fight against each other, there's a surface area of combat that's established between front lines. Or talking about front lines and combat, well, those villagers, they're not going to be fighting at all. They're going to be ripped to shreds. That is a big pick off there by sort of. Quite a few villagers taken out. That was rough. Wasn't protected. And this is a part of the problem for the Byzantines. The army is very static, right? Mostly infantry. They don't have the movement speed. Even if they spot an attack coming in, even if he reacts instantaneously, the units need to get over there. And they're just too slow. Speaking of too slow, though, these villagers might be too slow to escape. They do escape. I only lost one there in the end, though, sort of. And you can see, like, the army just so much more mobile, right? The Bageisha is so fast. The movement speed of 1.5. Just factor in the scout moves at 1.62 tiles per second. Now, Bageisha is at 1.5. It's you know, really keeps up. Obviously, the cavalry will run away, but the Bageisha keep the chase for a while. I'm going to try and pick up a relic. In any case, I was on a thought process, and that was talking about the Bageisha and the increased attack range. Now, as we were saying in melee engagements, you have a certain surface area that they can engage with, and if you can't engage with it, they have to kind of path around and find another way to actually engage in the surface area to attack. On the Bageisha, they forget all of that. They just fight over their comrades, over their shoulders, and behind their allies to attack their enemies. So it adds another second layer for the Japanese of surface area to engage with, melee-wise. And I think it's a really nice mechanic for the Japanese. It's something that's very unique to them. And I gotta say, I love that part of the Japanese. There's lots of things very unique about the civilization. Speaking of which, we've got the samurai and the Bageisha together. Going to be forming a very nice combination. So what we'll see, if there is an engagement, we'll see the samurai on the front lines, Bageisha just behind them. But both will be equally attacking on that single surface area established. Garnath, though, starting to build up a force in the middle. Going to be snagging that relic just before the Shinto priest comes out for the Japanese. He's going to get the veterancy upgrade for the Bageisha as well, making them a little bit more tanky. He's got to be a bit careful here, sort of, whilst he does have the villager lead. There's quite a lot of army here for the Byzantines. Just see the veterancy coming in for the Bageisha, slightly more armoured now. Going to be having 100 HP and 9 melee damage, but the most important thing is the attack speed. 0.9 seconds. And the extra tile range, of course. But I love this move from sort of. Like, you might be thinking, well, this could die quite quickly, and you're right. But what it's doing, look at the reaction it's forcing out of Garnath. It's probably a bit of an overreaction. What this does, it buys sort of so much time, right? Sort of recognizes that actually, okay, he's gone for 2 town centers, right? So he needs to keep Garnath away from his base as much as possible for as long as possible. If he can do that and upgrade his town centers and really establish a good eco lead, having 2 town centers, then in the late Imperial Age time, in that part of the game, he'll be fine. Now, the Byzantines won't necessarily fall behind too much on eco because he does have a good water level, level 4. And he does have 2 town centers himself, so villager count wise he shouldn't drop it. that's not the concern right now because the Honor Brigade are going to be ripping through the crossbows. There are quite a few Limitana and a couple of those Varangian Guards that are getting involved, but another group of Honor Brigade come out and sort of pumping out units up to 53 military. And it's splitting up the army. This is great play by sort of. And yeah, I mean, he might not necessarily be winning the fights, but that's not his objective at this point. Sort of's objective really is to keep Garnath away from his base. Because the win condition for sort of really is to make sure that economy does scale and then translate into a late game military. And maybe a Zerg push of look at the Honor Brigade coming out in massive numbers. I mean, you could see the red pings everywhere, right? It's going to be difficult for Garnath to keep his army everywhere. Does have a couple of Katana bannermen too. Yeah, this is tricky for Garnath. Like, being able to judge how many units he needs in each spot that's vulnerable is really tricky. Does get to keep to defend that left side, though. That's definitely going to help. Oh, look at the Honor Brigade. Going to be diving in now, sure. And this is a distraction. Does have a couple of samurai. Oh, of course, they're going to lose their lives, but take a look at this guy. This is a lot of military here just for a few units. And it's buying time, right? This is buying time for sort of his economy to scale. Look at the food income now. 1,800 food per minute. It feels like he's already hit that window. He's only got 39 military, so he does still need to be careful, right? Because if Garnath decides no, he wants to be aggressive and just brute forces his way down the middle, it could become a problem, particularly with the Honor Brigade getting a good surround and going and ripping through it. In fact, it doesn't even need a front line. The Honor Brigade are the front line. Holy moly. You just see how hard it is for the cavalry to deal with that. Oh, sort of, though. Going to be denied on that town centre. He's going to have to delete this town centre before he loses the resources. Good pick off there by Garnath. Does lose it in the end. But this is clever. Just peeling off units here, sort of. Gonna head further forward. And do you see teardrop shields coming up for the cataphracts? Gonna be increasing their armor. But also the movement speed of Limitane and the attack speed of Varangian Guards. Gonna be increasing the abilities for all of those units. Oh, we do see Whistling Arrow coming in for the Japanese. We might see some Onnamusha eventually. And that'll do well against the Keshiks, as well as the Varangian Guards. I like that addition for sort of. The Japanese showing their ability for the movement speed for lots of things. On Bagesha, on Namusha, and the Horsemen earlier on in the game. But sort of's military numbers starting to build up once again, and now it's getting scary time here for Garnath. Garnath has just never been able to deal with these raids, right? He's always struggling, always playing catch up, always chasing. And sort of has done a great job with this. Prairie, obviously very open game, and it just shows you the playstyle. It's really interesting because, like, sort of is walled up, right? He doesn't have this problem. He doesn't have the problem of the Byzantines coming in and raiding all the time. Mololo going to be coming up just as a distraction more than anything, maybe. Pushes away the army. The Honor Brigade in the middle of the map. Or the base, rather, I should say. But unfortunately for the Byzantines, they haven't had that water level 5 for quite some time. We're heading into the 24th minute of the game, and would love to see that level 5 water level. But you can see a lot of the villages, they should be working, but they're not. Those olive groves are empty. The Honor Brigade, take a look at this. Like, there should only be 3 versus 3 there. But Honor Brigade on the back line, it makes it a 3 versus 6. You can see, look at that. The Varangian Guards, they had to walk around. By the time they walk around, a lot of the comrades are taking a lot of hits. It does clear it up in the end, but it just shows you the cost-effective way that Brigade fight. Taking the sacred site. Garnath in the middle. Oh, Honor Brigade just running past. But just look how fast they go. It's actually quite funny to watch. You can see again splitting off the army, and Usain Bolt, eat your heart out. These ladies, they move quick. Ooh, on the right side, this is going to be a bit of a mass swarm of units here. I think this is a fight that sort of probably wins. Like, a crossbows can't afford to engage in melee combat like that. Does lose a Katana Bannerman though. Does leave that aura for 30 seconds. Honor Brigade getting a chase. On the west side of things, Honor Brigade going to clear up the Keshiks. Oof, that's bad. The east side, all of a sudden now, despite having less numbers of units, it just feels like sort of is winning the fights. Which he really shouldn't be. I think Garnath now has probably had enough. I feel like Garnath needs to get some static defenses. In fact, yeah, he's starting to build up the walls again. I didn't actually notice that on the minimap, but he does have the walls coming up. And he needs to get that. It feels a bit late, but better late than never. It will allow Garnath to push in the middle, which is really what he wants to do and do some damage. You can see he's trying to do the same, right? But it's just not the same because of the walls. And take a look at this. We've got the Shogunate Castle. That's going to be increasing the farming gather speed by 75%. Did you guys just see that rocket? Holy smokes, completely decimated that Keshik. And raiding the Japanese, even if you can get past the walls, you know, there's rockets coming out your way. Deal with the rockets from the Shogunate Castle. Good luck with that. You definitely need some ranged siege, some trebuchets for that, I guess. Or mass rams, potentially, but you definitely need a killer blow, a killer push to do damage like that. Going to be trying breaking the west side. Now, this is a good force here for Garnath. I think this is a good approach. It's been a long time coming. He's going to break through and he has access to that wood line. We do see Onimusha coming out now. A great unit for the Japanese, and that's going to do well against the Varangian Guard, but doesn't really have enough, you feel. Going to be using the Onabagation as front line, but they get ripped apart by archers, so you might be thinking, I've talked a lot about the Onabagation, how strong they are. They are countered technically by archers and knights, but I'm not so sure about the knight situation. Just if in a mass, the Onabagation seem to trade well. Archers maybe can do some well against the range, but if they get up and close to person or use movement speed, it could be dangerous, and that's exactly what they're doing here. Look at their katanas, they're absolutely ripping through this army, and look at the fight. I mean, sort of in Japanese, there's no doubt about this. The Onabagation, they definitely win this fight. And there's no retreat really for Garnath, right? Because Onabagation just chase down everything, and you have to make the most of it. Oof, kind of losing a lot of units there. Unfortunately, those Onabagation rip through things. Now, the Japanese, a bit of a dicey town center, pretty exposed to be fair. Does have the daimyo mana, so should have an extra arrow slit coming in from there. But I'm not sure it's going to be enough. And all of a sudden, we're heading to that moment of the game where actually the tech advantage for sort of earlier on, in terms of the town center upgrade, is really boosting up that farms. Look at the food incoming. 3,000 food per minute. I mean, at this point, with the bank of resources that he has, this is the Zerg moment we're talking about with the Japanese. We kind of talked about it earlier in the cast and how this is always a possibility. It's kind of nice that we're seeing it in this game, actually, to be fair. And it kind of makes sense on open maps like this, Prairie, right? Because the ability to raid is incredible. The ability to Zerg and attack in multiple points is incredible. Obviously helped by the fact that Garnath didn't really wall up particularly much. But here comes the first of many engagements you feel. Sort of needs to probably back away there. Does have the movement speed. I think he needs to unbind those samurai. I think the samurai need to be given up. Let the Onabagation and Onimusha survive. Save the women and children. There are no children here, but you know what I mean. Sacred Site has been neutralized in the middle. The Onabagation going to start to try and hold on that palisade wall, but palisade walls do go down, and Garnath is actually looking a bit dangerous here. This could be a bit difficult for sort of. There's a lot of units coming out, but he does have the production capabilities. Look at the production buildings flooding out units. Defender's advantage definitely in favor of the Japanese. Trouble is for Garnath, for every unit he loses, it's difficult for them to be replaced quickly enough. Doesn't have the food income to do that. This is a good fight here for Garnath. Sort of having to retreat a little bit. Needs to give up a bit of room, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. He's raiding in the backlines as well. Take a look at this. Onabagation really rounding in and keeping a lot of the villagers idle. That's actually a great play. Just doing that all game here, sort of. The one little concern for sort of that he's been pinned back a lot, and all of a sudden the Byzantines are heading forward in with a very heavy army composition. A couple of counterfacts, Varangian Guards, a lot of archers, a couple of crossbows too. Makes it a bit difficult to counter. Sort of mostly relying on Onabagation and Onimusha. Has got a Katana Bannerman as well. This is looking rough here for sort of, but I think overall, generally, over time, the Japanese will take care of this army. It's just a matter of time. This town center is still alive. Now, water level 5 has come in for the Byzantines. This is going to keep up the economy rocking and rolling. Take a look at this. 25% enhancement on the villager gather rates, but not only that. The conscriptio, the production speed on the buildings, increased to 100%. At least whichever buildings that are within the cistern influence, of course. It's going to be engaging, trying to save that town centre, and he will. Sort of 123 villagers, 77 military, and all of a sudden the game's kind of switched, right? You get that kind of feeling that Garnath had a big push, but that was it. He didn't have any siege. Without siege, whilst you can win fights, you don't do any lasting damage to infrastructure, right? You need siege to do that. Garnath didn't have any of that. And now it's being pushed back, and all of a sudden sort of got the ascendancy. He's heading into the fight. Does have Onabagation and Onimusha with a couple of samurai on the front lines. You can see Onabagation really kind of dictate the fight. They're going right around. They're going to focus on the crossbows, and the crossbows have to back away. And the front line's surviving here for Garnath. The Varangian Guards might try and catch the Onabagation on the back, and they do. I think Onabagation just trying to get as much value here. I think sort of is happy with this, though, because he's at population capacity. You might be thinking, why is he fighting this? Maybe you might be thinking, why is Garnath not fighting it? It's because Garneth recognizes that he can't reproduce his army if he loses it. Now behind all of this, we're going to see the Imperial Age landmark, the Tanegashima gunsmith. That's a great landmark for the Japanese, by the way. Has access to another unique unit, the Ozutsu. Hopefully we see that unit. A great siege unit. And what's going to make matters worse for the Byzantines? If you felt like the Ottomans were a bit oppressive with their free units, well, these guys get free units too. Not just the Ottomans. They'll get free tickets. They'll start off with 5, and they should be able to spawn 5 of these Ozutsu. And then he can train them as much as he wants. 85 food, 155 gold. Not the most expensive unit in the world, so pretty excited to see how they come out. There we are. Come out in batch of 5, and a beautiful unit, I've got to say. It does splash damage, 160 health, 35 range damage. But more importantly, take a look at this. 130 damage versus building. Now factor in there are 5 of them. That's going to be a lot of damage output. 650 to be exact. That's per shot. Ooh, that's a big raid there. The Keshik's getting on that stone mine. Sort of going to lose a couple of villagers. Has lost 42 in total. Has killed 62 of his own. Of his enemies, rather, I should say. Ooh, God, that's a lot of dead villagers. But does it necessarily matter at this stage of the game? Maybe not. Does have a lot of town centers he can reproduce. Getting the elite on the Bogatia. The trouble for Garnath is that he needs gold. He's really struggling on gold. In fact, where is he going to get it from? He's got gold in the north. He's got gold in the south. To be fair, he's got gold options, but you can see the Bogatia always harassing their area. And they've got the movement speed to do that, right? He's going to harass the northern golden line. And the trouble for Garnath is he doesn't have enough stone for a keep, right? He had to commit to a keep back at home earlier on to defend. He was just being raided so much. This was kind of like, not, I wouldn't say a panic keep, but it was a keep that was forced out, for sort of, right? He was forced to get this keep back at home. And it meant that he can't afford that keep further out on the field. And it's such a great play. We see engagement here. I mean, it's a fight that, realistically, you'd think that Garnath should win, but not when you factor in the Ozutsu in the back. The Ozutsu firing off 7 of them. Absolutely demolishing units. Holy moly, these guys are great. That's a fight that Garnath can't win. I think he's only just realizing it now. Has to back away. Somehow the Ozutsu firing through the forest. The aim on those guys must be good. But take a look at this. A massive army coming in the north. Garnath going to be pushed off this gold vein, and if that happens, he's not going to have access to gold. Now there is one little mechanic. He does have olive oil. But we're going to have to talk about that later because the Bogatia are going to be fighting. Take a look at that. You can see Bogatia miles away. They're still fighting though. And these ladies, I should say, they're elite. This is an elite army versus a Castle Age army in many ways. The Varangian Guards, or the Gulams rather, and the Varangian Guards are still Castle Age. And that's going to be pretty rough. He does clear it up in the end. The Bogatia not enough, but does have the Onimusha that survived, right? He's kept up these very nice units, and they're going to cycle around and get away from there. Got good movement speed, these guys. 1.62. Should be able to make a run for it. But the problem is not over there for Garnath. It's very difficult to reproduce that army for him. It does have a keep on the front there, but it's not really protecting that much apart from the actual real estate that he has. The big trouble is that the Ozutsu are going to rip through that soon. Going to be denying the little entrance here. Has broken through on the west side. That's always a point of entry now for the Japanese. In the middle of the map, the Ozutsu going to be breaking down on that keep. Allows the torch damage coming out. That keep's not going to last for too long. Try to get Mangano in placement there for the Byzantines. It doesn't work in the end. Onimusha heading down the south. Again, look at that, denying the gold, right? This gold hasn't been able to be taken safely. He's going to go out there now, but it's risky. It's really risky, especially the Bogatia get on that. The Onimusha, a couple of them do go down though. A little bit of mismark in the way by sort of, does back away now. And the Onimusha actually have a really nice ability here, the Kaburiya. Increases their movement speed temporarily when they see an enemy. But take a look at this, he's really going down now in the middle of the base, and this is a situation that Garnath is going to struggle to deal with. He's got 50 military, but half his military is across the map in each direction, right? Some of it's on the west, some of it's in the southeast. Oh no. Oh dear. Garnath. The villagers. They're exposed. There's no outpost. There's no keep. The Bogatia is going to dive right on that. It's going to be an absolute massacre on that gold vein. And I think with that, we might see the end of the game. It feels rough there. He has to run away with the villagers. Only half of them will survive. Town centre is on fire. So is the production buildings. And the Byzantines are the Japanese rather, are absolutely zerging their way into the Byzantine army and their main base. The town centre goes down, and Maybe the aqueduct system will go down next, and the Byzantines are struggling to hold on. Loses the main entrance to the base, and going to try and fight back with a couple of crossbows, but the Azutsu are going to rip through everything, and there's no real counter to the Azutsu at this point. He needs to get rid of them somehow. Going to try and charge in with a couple of cavalry, a couple of Keshiks, but it's not going to be enough, you feel. It might take out 1 or 2 Azutsu, but behind that, the Onabagation getting good value. And all of a sudden, the Japanese war machine, the Zerg machine, heading further forward, and look at that, more army to go. As soon as the army's lost, it's being replaced. This is looking bad for Garnath. Does have a decent number of units now just to hold on the crossbows, but look at this, the Katana Bannermen. They're going to be surrendering themselves just to be added into cannon fodder, allowing the Azutsu to survive, to get the splash damage, and again we see another big push. This could be the death push that we're expecting in the game to see it out. We will see the Byzantines, can they hold? I'm not so sure, not this time. Especially with the Onabagation, they're peeling off, they're going northwest onto the villages on that wood line. It's probably struggling for wood now. The army goes down. Look at the death and destruction left by the Japanese army. The Byzantines, they're being overrun. Villagers, they're being chased by the Onabagation. And he might... Okay, maybe not. They chose mercy this time. Get the feeling there's a big struggle there. 90 military versus 23. And there it is, ladies and gentlemen. He taps out Garnath. I hope you guys enjoy the casted game. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you give the video a thumbs up. Take care, and see you next time.